Hello. I'm not really sure if it's working, so if it is, can someone... Okay, I think it is working. If it is, maybe write in the comments and let me know if it's working. I'm not really sure. I'm using a software for it, so I think it's a bit strange. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Morning. All right, while I get this sorted, maybe if you guys want, you can say where you are right now or where you're from. Awesome. Glad. Perfect. I think the comments are a bit delayed, so might be answering questions a bit late, but we'll work with it. Awesome. I'll check those out in a bit. Thank you. Yeah, so if you guys want to, I don't know, introduce yourself in a I don't know, say where you are, where you're from, where you're sitting now, or something, and I'll try and get the comments more synced up while I pretend like I know what I'm doing here. Oh, cool. I drove through Mackay, but I didn't actually get to stop in. Right. I think we might just have to deal with the delay a little bit. But cool. Thanks guys for being here. I'm really nervous but excited at the same time. I've been trying to figure this whole thing out all morning. But yeah, how's the audio? Is it okay? Okay. Cool. Is that a bit better? Do you think? No? Let's see. Is that better? I'm right next to a highway, so I've kind of tried to get my speaker so that it doesn't pick up too much of the noise. Okay, cool. Like that? Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so if it does get too noisy, let me know, and I'll try and figure that out. But yeah, I'm right next to a highway and there's dogs barking everywhere, so awesome, cool guys. So just a reminder, I'm extremely dyslexic, so super long comments or questions or anything like that is not the best, because then we'll just be sitting here watching me read questions. But I'm really excited to see you all here. Thanks for coming. And yeah, I guess I'll let you guys choose kind of how we start. So I have a couple of like story ideas and whatnot written down, and so I guess we can start with choosing from these three. So we can say we can talk about my background before starting filming and photography and stuff like that, because I haven't really shared that. And I would say it's probably surprising what I did before. Or we can do a sort of behind the scenes story of what filming has been like for the past 6 or so months. And again, we can touch on all these topics, or if something doesn't sound good, we don't have to do it, or we can just start with a question, Q&A kind of thing. So what sounds good? or I'll just go for it. Okay. Make sure. Again, I'm so sorry. I don't know if the software is properly working. So yeah. Okay. Cool. So, um, background before I started filmmaking and whatnot is I studied car design. Um, and okay, I set up some cool little photo montage, so hopefully I'll be able to get that working. But yeah, so I studied car design in Italy, and again, so sorry, it's so awkward just talking to you, and I obviously can see your comments, but it feels very strange, so bear with me while I get used to this whole process. So yeah, I studied car design in Italy. I studied there, and throughout the whole process, it was my dream at that time to be a car designer. I love the concept behind cars, where it's a space where people come together. And in a lot of countries, your car is your main source of transport, and it was that space where your family, even if you're having arguments or whatnot, you come together, and that's a space where memories are made. So that's why I really got into car design. So while I was there, I did an exchange to South Korea, and that's where I picked up the camera, because when I went to Korea, the courses were supposed to be in English, but when I got there, they were in Korean. And yeah, it obviously a really tough situation if you don't speak Korean, which I don't. And when I got into class, it was very competitive. All the students were trying to compete to be the best and to be the one that is kind of more in front of the teacher. And so, not speaking the language, not really understanding the cultural way of being a student there, it was really difficult for me. And what became even more difficult was it was frowned upon to ask questions to the teacher. The first couple of times I tried to ask, I was basically told to turn around and ask my classmates. And like I said, the dynamics there are really difficult, because everyone's trying to get ahead. So this is one person that's not understanding the course, and so why would they help, kind of thing. It's just another person taken out of the running of the whole competition. And so not understanding what we were doing in the course, not learning anything, not really having anyone to talk to in the classroom, it was such a hard experience. And so I contacted my school back in Italy, and they said, oh, there's nothing we can do. They told us it was in English, so like you're on your own, kind of thing. And that's where I picked up the camera, because there was nothing for me to do. So let me see if I can turn this on. Are you seeing photos? Yeah. Hey, Dami. Yeah, in Hongik. I don't know. Right, I'm attempting to share photos. On the screen, but I don't know if it's working. Let's see. I spent a good 30 minutes trying to set this up so it would work, but I don't think it is. Might just have to go without. Maybe I'll share them afterwards. So yeah, during that time I basically I went to class because it was mandatory, but I wasn't understanding anything that was going on, so I went into my own little world of photography and videography, and I'd do projects, and when we went to present them, they'd kind of be like, oh, that's nice, but it wasn't what we were doing whatsoever. And back in Italy, I was very much the try and get everything well done to what I like, kind of thing. Maybe not necessarily like the best or anything, but I would put a good effort into it. But this experience really changed how I saw all of it. And so for my last year of school, I didn't put any effort in. I was very much into the photography and just doing as little as possible to get by. But I did graduate with good grades, so that was good. But yeah, that's how I got into photography and videography. So yeah. Any questions? I feel like there wasn't really a space for questions, but that's my background behind what I did before. All right. I'm gonna go on, I guess, to let me just try one more time to see if I can get these photos to come up, because they're quite fun. My favorite photography style. That's a good one. I don't know if I really have one. I really like being out in nature and doing stuff like that. When I started, I did a lot of self-portraits with photography. And so I guess that would be my favorite, because it was more like a meditation sort of style for me, because I would just sit out there with the camera and volume kind of low. Is that better? Yeah, so I would just sit out there with the camera, and I would spend hours. I'd spend about 5 hours. I'd get out of class and just go straight into whatever nature area I could find. Here. Prego. Is that too loud now? If it's right in front of my face? Awesome. Cool. I should have done that from the beginning. Yeah, so I would spend about 5 hours just taking photos, just going out and having different ideas. So I guess photography, it just became an outlet for me for my frustration with school. So anything with the camera. So can you clarify the Outback question? Do you mean just like open space kind of, or yeah, just clarify that for me so I'm answering it the correct way. Yeah, in the Outback actually. So I started with photography. I really didn't do any videography whatsoever. But over the time, I went to New Zealand, and I was mainly doing photography. I really wanted to go in that direction because that's what I was kind of good at. But then when I started doing videography, I just loved it. I love the ability it has to tell a story and to create more feelings within it, which you can do with photography, of course, but it was becoming a little bit more frustration for me. And so that's when I started doing videography. My best friend actually told me to drop it and to stick with photography because I was much better at that. But because I'm so stubborn, I didn't listen, and I'm really glad I didn't listen in that case, because I rarely do photography now, which I'm going to start again because I really love it. But yeah, it's been an interesting turn of events with that. Okay, so yeah, the open space. That's a good question. I think with the Outback, I went into it with quite an open mind. I also had this idea of it being even more open than it was, because I was expecting kind of there to be no trees or anything, which it was more, not when I went on the station, but when I was in the bar, in the Outback bar, it was a little bit more open. But the station, when I first got there, I was flying in a helicopter, and it was a little bit, it was very different from what I thought it was going to be. When we flew, we stopped at a different station and had a chat with the guy there, who was really cool, but it was just covered in trees, which I was not expecting whatsoever. And so I think I had a very different idea of what the Outback would look like. And so I don't know how it influenced my concept of space. I'd say I've done a lot of sailing in my life. So when I was really young, we sailed a lot of places. And so maybe that influenced it not to be so scary of open space, I guess, because we'd done like big passages where you couldn't see land or other boats for long periods of times. And so it wasn't that scary for me, I guess. I don't know if that answers your question or not. Righto. Shall I move on to the story that I have kind of the behind the scenes, the last like 6 months behind the scenes? I don't think I'd do that well in the Navy. Right, I'll just move on, and if there's other questions or thoughts or anything like that, we'll sidetrack and do whatnot. So this, I guess, is a little bit more personal and not something I necessarily thought I would be sharing on here, but I think the live is probably the best way to do it so I don't overthink it. So normally I travel like solo most of the time, or I have friends come and join me every now and again, or go and see people, but the majority of my time is spent traveling by myself. But after some fairly scary situations in New Zealand while I was hitchhiking, I decided to travel with a friend for a while in Australia. Sorry, this is a bit heavy, so bear with me while I get through it. It was a really, really big learning experience for me. Is when you travel with someone, if you guys have traveled with people or by yourself, you kind of feel the difference. And just everyday life, eating what you want to do and whatnot, is very different from when you're traveling on your own. And so for the good majority of it, it was just a learning experience for me and how to travel with someone else. But during that time, the friendship got very toxic, and to the point where it was affecting my creativity. Most of the time I was criticized for all my ideas, for what I was doing. It was very much I could never do anything right, or it could always be better, which of course it can, but there's a difference between criticizing and creative feedback, or I can't think of the word right now, but feedback and criticizing. And so it was very much the criticizing part, and I got to the point where I didn't have enough energy to get out of bed to film what I wanted to film, to even think of ideas of what I wanted to film. It all felt like it was wrong, or I was doing the wrong thing. And the little voice in the back of my head was like, no, like, why do I keep getting stuck on these criticisms? And I knew it wasn't true, or I was trying to take little bits of it and like put it towards being better kind of thing. But I think when you're criticized so much over and over again from someone who's supposed to be your friend, it gets tiring. You just lose all your energy and creativity. And so that's what the point I was at. Yeah. It was really difficult, especially being in the outback when you can't really, you have the people around you, but sometimes not enough, because my friend as well was friends with everyone else, so there was no break between that. It's not like I could go and find a different friend group or anything like that. Yeah, super mentally draining. So it was constant. It was constantly happening no matter where I was, and it wasn't just necessarily it wasn't necessarily just the creative side, but that's of course the side that was taking the biggest hit for me, because it's something that I really love to do. It's something that I am and was really passionate about doing, and so it wasn't an easy time, and I'm still quite proud of a lot of the things that I put that I put out, but I've slowly been seeing the effect, like the long effects of that now coming to play. And it's sad to look back and think, oh, I know where I compromised on that because of what was happening in my personal life. And I can still see the effects in my work right now, which is really scary and sad. But I am coming out of that part, and I'm getting to a place where I feel like I'm creating from a place where I feel confident, where I feel like even if I do make mistakes, it's a learning experience and I'm going to grow from it. So that's, thanks for joining. So I'm really excited to see where it goes, but I also wanted to say a really big thank you to a lot of you guys who took the time to write really lovely messages to me on some of these videos, or to just be excited for the projects that I had coming up, because sometimes those comments were the only thing that were getting me up and picking up the camera again, which was something that brought me a lot of joy, but at that point was draining me, because anything I did was wrong, right? So if I didn't pick it up, then there was nothing to complain about necessarily, or something that I love wasn't going to be torn down. And so thank you a lot for those really lovely comments. They got me through a lot of really tough times, so thank you. I'm really proud to be where I am now, and I'm proud for some of the projects that are coming up, because I think that they have a lot more creative energy in them and a lot more of me, where the other ones of course did have me in it, but it was a bit different. So thank you guys. Any questions? Thank you. So this time is more, I think what keeps me going is videography in itself. I really love doing it, and I really love being able to share it with you guys, and it brings me a lot of joy. During that time it was really hard, but I think creativity in general just is really exciting to me, and I love exploring these different cultures and being able to share what I see with everyone else. So okay, that's a good segue. So I will be posting videos, and they are going to be a little bit out of time, because I have a big project that I'm going to be working on shortly. I'm going to be heading back to Australia very soon, and the goal is to capture a little bit more of the Aboriginal community and to learn more about it, because while I was in Australia, I didn't learn much of it at all. I learned a lot about the outback, but I didn't really meet any Aboriginals. And so, yeah, I'm going to be heading to WA, Western Australia, to hopefully get to learn a lot more and to make some cool videos. The videos that I have coming up now are going to be out of time, because I will be trying to focus as much energy as I can into this project, because I think that it's going to be quite sensitive in how I capture it and how I produce it, so that I'm not doing it in the wrong way or misrepresenting the culture. I guess where this idea for this project came from, I'll talk about a bit, was that I was trying to learn more about the different cultures and the different Aboriginal groups and tribes, and I couldn't find much, especially outside of Australia. It's really difficult to find specific places to get the information, and I actually joined some groups on Facebook who have given me so many places to go find it, but the fact that people have to dig to find it is kind of where I think that we can do better at having a place where people can go and find it. And so I'd like to make some sort of videos on YouTube where it's easily accessible for a lot of people, and then give resources to all these other places where you can learn more if you want to learn more about the communities. And so, yeah, it's going to be a big project. I'm very, very nervous. And I guess I'll add in now, since we're talking about it, is that the videos will be a little bit more in time on my Patreon, just because I'll be posting them whenever I finish it. So it might be backed up on my YouTube, but on Patreon it'll kind of be whatever I finished, I'll be posting it right away as soon as I finish it. So if you're interested in seeing them a little bit sooner, you're welcome to head over there. That will also support me, because this will be the first time that I am going around filming without working a full-time job, which is a bit scary for me. So whatever donations there will be greatly appreciated, as it's going to be a big project. But of course, they will always be free on the YouTube. You'll just have to wait a little bit longer to see them. So yeah, I'm really excited and really, really nervous for it. I don't know if I'm going to accomplish it or not, but gotta give it a try, right? Let's see. If I could change one thing in the world, what would it be? That's a good question. I think probably having people have an open mind towards other cultures and more compassion towards each other, because I think that's where we lack. It's fine. It's fine to be different, and I think there's a lot of beauty in that, and a lot of the reason I travel and experience different cultures is for the differences. But I think it's not okay to go in and trying to change something that you're seeing. And so that's what I would change, is give people more open mind and more compassion towards each other. Will I use a drone? Okay. So drones are scary to me. The next video coming out next week has some of my drone shots in it, and I am not a good drone pilot. I always seem to fly mine in the sketchiest of conditions. If you've seen my much earlier work, I was doing a cycle trip through the North Island of New Zealand, and I decided the best day to fly would be the one that it was raining with really high winds. I almost lost my drone several times. Probably not a good confidence booster in flying. But I did the same thing. So the next trip, next video, is you'll see a bit of my drone work. But during that time, my drone actually just stopped flying. I think it's just encountered too much abuse from me, and so it just stopped flying. It would only go up and down, and luckily it was over the road that we were driving on anyway, so I just brought it down and caught it. But it's not a happy thing. So I'm going to try and use the drone more often, but yeah, drones to me are very hard work and scary to use. Yeah, so again, coming back to the Aboriginal tribes, if you guys have suggestions, warnings, ideas, whatever, if you wouldn't mind emailing me, and I think I've put it in the description of this live, my email, so that if you have any suggestions, anything, concerns, whatever, if you could email me and let me know, that would be amazing. So I have a couple of ideas for it already, but we'll see what happens. Very scary. Right, should we do another behind the scenes? I've kind of run out of notes because I didn't think it would. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just nervous and writing stuff down. So I've run out of kind of stories. But I guess I could tell you a story about Korea if you guys wanted. And why I don't tell my mom where I am in the world. I really wish that these photos would pop up on here, because I actually have a photo of the time that I'm going to be speaking about. One more try. No, it's not working. Bummer. Okay, so while I was studying in Korea, I had some friends who took me to the DMZ, and for those of you who don't know what it is, it's the demilitarized zone. So it's the border between South Korea and North Korea. So we went to do a tour and see North Korea, but from the South Korea side. While I was there was a bit of service. My mom texted me. I hadn't told her where I was going, but so she texted me, and I texted her back, sorry, I can't talk right now, I'm in North Korea. She immediately freaked out and was sending me texts like, what the heck are you doing? Like, why would you, like, what were you thinking? Blah, 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 blah. A really long text of, like, you idiot, basically. And at that time, I lost service because we went down into the tunnel where they show you where North Korea had actually tunneled through, one of the tunnels, I should say, to South Korea. So I had no service whatsoever. And yes, those were coming through. And at the end of her text, she said, be safe, have fun. And when I come back out, I realized my mistake and the fact that your mom really doesn't want to know how much danger you're necessarily putting yourself into. And of course, this was on a tour. It was safe. But yeah, so I don't really tell my mom what I'm doing now until after the fact, or I'll text her like my location just in case something goes wrong, so she'll know kind of where to look for me. But yeah, that was the start of me not telling my mom where I am or where I'm going. Yeah, she was not happy. Yep, fair point. Righto, guys. do you want another behind the scenes story? I don't know really what to do. I guess I didn't plan this out very well. So do you want another behind the scenes story? Do you want to do questions, Q&A, or are you a bit done with this? Let me know. Otherwise, I can I have kind of like like the goals I have for this channel and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. All right, let me think. I'll give you some options then. I've shared a bit about my bad experience hitchhiking and why I don't really hitchhike that often anymore. So we can talk further about that. We could talk about some of the things in the outback that I didn't share. We could. I'm just scared to sit here and bore you guys, so yeah. We could talk about what videos I have coming up that are already edited or almost edited. I could tell you what videos are coming, so we don't have to talk in depth about it, but I can tell you what countries are coming up in these videos. Anything spark your interest? Do you want me to talk about the hitchhiking then? Okay. Let me know though. If it's getting boring, just let me know. About Mexico. Okay. Okay. So Mexico is one of my favorite places to film in. And those will actually, I have 2 more videos of the states coming out. Okay, hitchhiking. We'll do it. I'll finish Mexico and then we'll talk hitchhiking. Mexico is one of my favorite places to film in, because, so I have, losing my train of thought. So I have 2 more videos of the states coming out, and then I'm not sure if it's going to be 1 or 2 videos of Mexico. I don't want it to be too long, or I'm just not sure how I'm going to edit my footage, so I'm not sure if there's going to be 1 or 2 videos of Mexico. But anyway, I really love Mexico because it's, no matter where I've gone, I've felt welcomed. You walk into an area and people just start smiling at you. They might give you a sort of mad face, or like the resting face. It doesn't look very friendly, but as soon as you smile here, I've just always felt so welcome. And so it is one of my favorite places to film. At these videos coming out, you'll see that people just stop me places to ask me to, hi, how you doing? People just stop me to ask them to take photos or videos of them, or just start chatting with me and asking me all these questions. And a lot of that comes from me having a camera. I don't speak that much Spanish. I use my Italian to get by, which doesn't necessarily get me very far, but a lot of hand gestures and body Hey. Oh, very cool. Yeah, a lot of hand gestures and body language get me pretty far just in any language. And so it's very much the same in Mexico. Yeah, in the videos that we'll follow, there's parts of just food scenes where I'm getting used to being able to film in big crowds, because a lot of my past videos have always been sorry, I'm having a hard time reading and talking. A lot of my past videos have been in nature, where I can focus, I can get in my own little space, and I don't have to worry about maybe interrupting other cultures or offending people. Not that I necessarily think I will, but there's always that fear that you're coming into someone else's place, you're coming into someone else's culture, and you don't want to do the wrong thing. And I really learned a lot of that while I was in Korea, because slight gestures, like, this is one of my favorite things about culture, is just like little details. And so in Korea, you have to drink a certain way. People that are older, even if they're just a year older than you, you're supposed to do different gestures while you're drinking to show respect. So during my classes, we all went out as a class with our teachers, and you have to drink away from the person who's older than you. So let's say over here is someone who's a couple years older than me. I have to drink this way to show respect if this person is younger than me. I'm not sure what you're actually supposed to do if they're both older than you, but you have to turn your head away. And so those are the things I really love, but also make me very aware that when you're entering a different culture, there's things that you might not understand that can actually be quite rude to people. And so I'm really learning that space of where I can film, how I can film. And so these videos in Mexico will be a bit interesting, because I was still warming up to it while I was there to be able to film and whatnot. I'll answer the questions about. I have been to Madrid. My cousin actually lives in Madrid, and so my first overseas. It's really cool that you just came back. Did you like it? I really like Madrid. I like Spain in general. So my family is from the south, and yeah, it was when I was 13. I went. My mom arranged the trip for me to go visit my cousin and my aunt, and it was kind of what hooked me. I was there when Spain won the World Cup, and so the streets were just mobbed with people. All the water fountains in the middle of the street were drained because people just go crazy. And yeah, it set me up to this moment of, I love traveling. I love seeing the way other people live, because it's different and it's interesting, and you might like something way more, and you might not like it, but that's part of traveling. So I'm really glad you went, and I hope you really enjoyed it. Sorry again, I'm dyslexic, and so it takes me a while to read things. Do I research a culture before jumping in? It depends. If I know that it's quite a sensitive culture, I will. Usually I have friends from there that can kind of tell me that sorry guys. So I have friends who can usually tell me, yes, you can do this, or don't do this, it's very offensive. When I was younger, I definitely pushed this limit a lot. So one of my best friends while I was studying in Italy was Korean, and he's one of the the biggest factors of how I got through a lot of the culture. And I'm certain that I did things that were still offensive, not by meaning to necessarily, but again, I did push it while I was in Italy. I was always doing things that were very, he would always freak out a little bit. But and again, in Italy, I knew the culture a lot more, and so I knew where I could push it and whatnot. Because I think as well, a lot of things need to be done, pushed a little bit, not necessarily cultural thing, like faux pas and whatnot, but you need to push your limits a little bit more. So maybe I'd go out of my comfort zone to go talk to people. And for him, as a Korean, he was so nervous for me to do those things. So he kind of knew who I was going into Korea, and would tell me, like, this is a hard no, like, you cannot do this, or like, this is where you can kind of push it, because we had already known each other for 2 years prior to that, and so he already knew where he needed to tell me, like, no, this is the line, kind of thing. And that was really, really helpful for me, because when you're entering a country, you don't know that. And so I don't always research the culture. If I know if it's a Western culture, usually things are a little bit looser, let's say. It just depends on where I'm going. So some places I really do. It's not vodka. It is water with the remnants of some orange juice. Because I was so I can't handle caffeine. Caffeine will cause me to stay up for almost 2 days, and I get quite shaky. So I don't know if you can hear it now. I had some tea this morning. I had some tea this morning, and I can already feel it. Like, I get, like, my heart rate starts going really fast, and so I need water to kind of calm me down, because caffeine really doesn't agree with me. Remind me. I think so. Did you message me about working at the Well Shot? Remind me, because your name on here isn't what it is, I'm assuming, on Facebook, if you message me. Yeah, so there was something else. Oh, shall I go back to hitchhiking? Talking about that one. So while I was in New Zealand, that's when I started hitchhiking, and I'd always on Instagram. Oh, remind me more of our conversation, because I don't remember. I'm sorry. Sorry. Anyway, I started hitchhiking when I was in New Zealand. It was amazing. I really, really loved it. I loved meeting people, because I like talking and getting to know people. And I think that's, again, a really great way to understand cultures, because there's so many different parts in each country, because the world is so diverse now. And so hitchhiking gave me such a wide variety of people to be able to meet. It was really, really cool. I met a lot of people. I learned a lot of things, and it gave me a lot of ideas for further adventures. But after I quit my job and had some money kind of saved up to be able to travel, sorry guys, I started hitchhiking because I had just sold my car. My car had been kind of sorry, I can't read and do this at the same time, so I'm just gonna block it out for a second. So my car had been kind of a dud. I have a video on that if you want to know what happened there. Now, a whole bunch of ideas for further stories are coming up, so we'll see how long this lasts. So I was hitchhiking. I was like, I know I can get around hitchhiking now. I really enjoy it, and I'll just kind of see where I get to. So I was in the South Island at this point, and I'd had a really long day previously, and I knew I wanted to get over to the West Coast, which is a little bit more desolate. There's less towns, there's less facilities and whatnot, and So I was in Christchurch, and I was going over to Greymouth. So this is towards the top of the South Island. And I decided to take a ride with this guy who I didn't really trust at first, but I hadn't had any luck getting a ride, and I was tired, and I was just ready to get there. I was kind of like, I know I can do this, and it was more just going through the motions rather than kind of slowing down, looking who I was getting in the car with, and like appreciating the fact that I'm moving up the island hitchhiking. So I got in the car with this gentleman, and at first it was all good. We just said our hellos, like, what are you doing, where are you going, kind of thing. And the first question he asked me was if he could drive naked, and I said no, like, I'm okay, thank you, please leave your clothes on. And then he informed me that he was going to a nudist community, which I don't have a problem with at all, but I was happy that he asked prior to just getting naked and driving, because I didn't feel comfortable with that. I was tired. I was just wanting to get to my destination without any of this. As we drove further, he started to tell me about his life, where he told me that he used to be a male escort and that he really enjoyed having sex with people in front of random people. So he'd like to go down to the beach where it was quite crowded and then just have sex with other people. And this is where I really started to get uncomfortable and didn't want to be in the car. My stuff was in the boot, so I couldn't. I didn't feel like I could get away. Then he started telling me a lot more inappropriate things that I'm not going to share here, and started saying that he would like to do those things with me. I started getting really, really uncomfortable, like you would. I asked him to stop, which he didn't do. He continued. And then he kept insisting that I go to this nudist community with him, and that there wasn't very many young people and I'd be perfect to go there. And I said no. And then he was supposed to drop me off in this town, but he decided he didn't want to, that it was going to take him too much time to go up there and then come back to his turn off, which it wasn't that far away. But at this point, I think he was frustrated that I wasn't just agreeing with him and going with him. So he dropped me off kind of in the middle of nowhere. I was just happy to be safely out of the car at that point. I was shaking, just terrified. It was getting later in the evening, and I was stood by the side of the road just kind of trying to collect myself and being glad that I was outside of the car safe, because in those situations it can definitely not end up with me on the side of the road safely out of the car. And so I was there just kind of trying to breathe it out through, like, happy to be out, and all these cars that on the road that he had turned onto, so off of the main road, were coming out, and they were just harassing me. Some people were throwing stuff at me, some people were just yelling things at me, which obviously, when you're kind of in shock of a situation that just happened, is not helpful whatsoever. I had just sold my sleeping bag because I was thinking, okay, I don't want to hitchhike anymore. That was too much. So where can I sleep on this road that is safe? And there was like a little ditch, and I was thinking, okay, well, I can sleep in there and I'll just walk the rest of the way. But I just sold my sleeping bag, and so I was feeling very, very lost and unsafe. And then a car came by, because I wasn't really trying to hitchhike, but I was kind of like half-assing it, in the sense that I knew I needed to keep moving, but at the same time I really didn't want to get in another car. And a family picked me up and drove me to the next town, and were kind of like, you really shouldn't have been in that spot, like that was not a safe place to be. And when you're hitchhiking, it's kind of your job to make conversation with them. A lot of the times, at least when I was picked up, it was like, oh, I'm driving here and I could really use the company. So it was a hard position to be in, where I didn't really want to talk to them about what had just happened, obviously, but I was in shock and didn't have the energy to sit there and chat. And so I can only imagine what it seemed like, but it was a lovely family that picked me up, so I kind of think they understood that something bad had happened, and they gave me a bunch of suggestions of where to go to stay in a hostel and whatnot. So at that point, I didn't know what I was doing. There wasn't really any hostels around me, and I knew that they were quite a far walk anyway, where the family had dropped me off in the town, because I was just kind of the point where I wanted to be alone. And so I was like, okay, well, let me try and get one more town over, because there's more hostels, which wasn't too far away, even though I was trying to get like 3 hours still over to maybe it wasn't 3 hours, I can't remember how, maybe 2 hours to Greymouth. And the next car I got was a lovely lady who picked me up, and when I first got in the car, I was like, oh, I'm just trying to get the town over, because I didn't want to go too far, even if she was going to Greymouth. And once we started chatting, I was like, oh, I'm actually trying to get to Greymouth, which is where she was going. So she drove me the rest of the way, which was lovely. And so, yeah, I don't really hitchhike anymore. But I guess to add on to that was I got into the hostel that I had booked while we were driving, because she was like, oh, you might want to book before we run out of service. So I did. And I got to the hostel. There wasn't really anyone there because it was off season. And I got into the hostel, and the guy who was there, this is for those of you who know where I'm from, because I used to have a video up. I appreciate it if you don't say anything, because this is why I don't tell people where I'm from. I got into the hostel, and the guy there, without any provoking, started telling me how he wanted to blow where I'm from up, and that that he wishes everyone would die, and that he knows that there's good people there, but he still wishes the whole place would just explode, and that they were not part of the world anymore. I don't actually travel on that passport. I travel on a different one. And so there was no reason for him to be telling me these things. But it just made me obviously feel even more unsafe, because I had just had a bad hitchhiking experience, and then to come to that where they, so that's the whole sum up of that whole situation. One, why I don't really hitchhike anymore, and two, why I don't tell people where I'm from. So yeah, pretty scary stuff, but I'm definitely glad to be here and glad to have learned from those experiences instead of something else. I don't remember what you're talking about, but I think I have a vague idea of what you're talking about, but I think once I look back on Instagram, I'll remember clearly. My brain right now, with the nervousness of being on live, is a bit scattered, so forgive me. Yeah, I'm really glad I made it out as well. And what's funny is actually I did hitchhike after that, because there was no bus or train or anything out of there until I think for another 3 or 4 days. And in this hostel, I was the only one in my room. And I shoved stuff in front of the door because I was really scared of this guy who I think he owned the hostel, but I'm not sure, but he was there a lot, and I didn't want to be there. I was the only one there. I was terrified from the whole day, and so I ended up hitchhiking, I think 2 days later, just because I couldn't manage staying there any longer. And I ended up hitchhiking with another girl who was hitchhiking, who I met on the road, and she had never had any bad experiences with it, and she was lovely. We're still in contact now. She's lovely. She's from Korea, actually, and that was the last time I hitchhiked. We got 2 rides to the north, and with no problems whatsoever. We just had lovely, lovely people. So yeah. Yeah, so hitchhiking she actually hitchhiked in Australia a bit, which just blew my mind. But yeah, I don't think I would hitchhike in Australia. I haven't seen any of the films or read any of the stories, just because I couldn't bring myself to do it. But I wouldn't hitchhike in Australia, unfortunately, because I don't know, it's a hard one, because hitchhiking can be so much fun, but it only takes one person to ruin it. Yeah. Shall I go on to another story, maybe? Okay. Do you remember? Okay, I got you. Awesome. Oh, I'm so glad. That's very, very exciting. But yeah, don't hitchhike. Or yeah, I wouldn't hitchhike. I guess the suggestion, if you do hitchhike, is take photos of the license plates prior to, which I wasn't doing until after that bad experience, because I was like, oh, New Zealand's great, like everyone's lovely. But yeah, I think find a place where you feel really comfortable to hitchhike. Maybe not in Australia. Maybe if you do a trip somewhere, because it is really a great experience. But yeah, it can be dangerous. Okay, I have another story that I haven't documented. Again, if you've seen some of my way older videos, I have a video on my van, which I bought in New Zealand, which I was living out of for quite some time. I bought it from a guy who had actually been scamming people for cars. It's on the news. Yeah, he's been scamming, it must be 6 or 7 years now. He's been scamming people out of vans, like they put a down payment in and he doesn't have them, or it's not to the right quality. I actually met him in a parking lot and ended up asking him if he was selling the van, and he was like, oh yeah, in a month or so. And so I actually did get the van, which was great, because you know, it could have been worse. I could have been like one of the many others who didn't get a van after they put lots of money down. I think some people were putting 20 grand down, and they weren't getting anything in return, and he had many lawsuits against him, but they weren't getting anything back. Like, nothing was happening from it. So this is the person that I bought my van from, which had a lot more issues in it than was said. It went on a trust basis, which is a lot of how I do anyway, but in this case it didn't turn out necessarily for the best. So the van was supposed to come down at the beginning of the month. I can't remember when, March 2020 maybe, I can't remember. No, it would have been early, I don't remember. It was earlier. So March sometime, 1 year. And it didn't come down. And so it was the next month that I actually ended up getting, no, it was 2 months later, that I actually ended up getting the van. And they had brought it down from the North Island down to the South Island of New Zealand. And when I first picked it up, a friend had come to New Zealand to visit. He was only there for about 10 days. So some of those days we had to rent a car, even though I was supposed to have the van at that point. But then we went and picked up the van. We were having a great little road trip the first day, and the van broke down. He came out the guy who sold it to me came out and jumped us because the batteries were dead, and he was like, oh, it's because you had the inverter on, and so that's why. And then so they jumped the van, we went off again, same thing happened, the inverter wasn't on, but now the car wasn't really starting at all or anything like that, and so the starter motor was going out. We got it jumped by someone else, and drove back to where this guy and his family were staying, and he said, not to worry, I'm a mechanic, I'll fix it. They actually ended up bringing us to this junkyard, and they're like, well, we can't do anything until tomorrow, so just meet us at this junkyard at X time, and we'll see what we can do, kind of thing. And then they're like, oh, are you all right to stay in the van in the junkyard with us? Like, we have permission from the people who own it and whatnot, so we can have a little cookout and we'll cook you dinner and all this. And I was like, that sounds great, let's do that. And so we come back to the junkyard because we had dropped the car off, and they had said it won't be working until tomorrow. And we went to the front gate because we're like, oh, they had gotten permission, so obviously let's go in. We got to the front gate. It was all locked up. You couldn't get in. There was like signs everywhere saying keep out, like video cameras everywhere. And yeah, so we were like, what the heck, what's going on? We got a text because they must have seen us trying to get in, telling, like, with instructions to go around the junkyard, like way past it into this back field, jump the fence there, and then there was like this little hole that we could get through, and then to jump another fence. So it felt very, very sketchy. And so now we were in this junkyard, walking through all these ruined cars to get back to the front where the van was, tucked behind a building. So we were like, well, are we supposed to be here? What's going on? This doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like we should be here. But we met up with this family, and they were absolutely lovely. They were telling us stories all night about his wife was from Russia. He was Kiwi, and their kids they were so fun. They were so full of life, and it was really lovely. They cooked us dinner. We chatted late into the evening, and then they went into their van, and my friend and I went into my van and had, that was it. No problems whatsoever. The next morning, though, when we got up, everyone was looking at us really funny, like we shouldn't be there kind of thing. They didn't say anything to us, but we were kind of like, I don't think we were supposed to do that. I don't think that was discussed with anyone. But they fixed my van. They pulled parts out of some other car and fixed it, and then we were off again. And I didn't see them again. Everything was lovely. They messaged me every so often and were like, oh, how are you doing? Like, is everything good? Like, if you need anything, like, just let us know and whatnot. COVID hit. We were in the pandemic. I didn't get to use the van. We were in lockdown for 6 weeks. And during that 6 weeks is when I found out that he had been scamming so many people. Because a commercial came on and his face was there. And this had been several months later. So I was like, that looks so familiar. And like we rewind and watched this commercial like several times, and then I let it finally like actually finish through, and I realized that he was the guy who sold me the van. And at this point, like my van, I had spent so much more money on trying to fix things in my van because everything was going wrong with it, everything. And yeah, so I saw that commercial and realized that I had bought a van from the like notorious New Zealand van burglar. I don't know what to call him, scammer. Yep. So now I'm very cautious when buying cars. Maybe still not as cautious as I should be, but definitely more cautious on finding things that are working and checking people out. So yeah. Right, guys. It's been actually an hour. I didn't think it would go this long. So, if you guys haven't gotten too bored yet, I might just tell you some of the goals for the channel. And then let you go about your life. Thanks for being here. I really, really, really appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I've been doing putting out videos for about 2 years now. 2 years in September, at the beginning of September. So my goal for the channel is to hit 1,000 subscribers by then. It's very true. Very, very true. It does. Misadventures, if you can walk away from them, are great. Yeah, so my goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers on here before that happens for the 2nd of September. Just because at the moment I usually work full-time jobs to support my creative side of making these videos and going around and exploring different places. And so once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I can actually start making some money on here so that I spend less time, or I can actually get more sleep instead of working and doing videos and stuff like that. So that's my goal. My short-term goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers so that maybe I can have some more time to rest, or even more time to learn more things about videography and filming and storytelling, just with that. So that's my short-term goal. Long-term goal is, I don't know if some of you have noticed, but there's in a lot of big traveling like TV, all those things, it's mainly men in it. If you go on to Netflix or Prime or anything like that, there's so many amazing men doing these travel channels, and so I would love to be a part of the little movement that's happening now of more women going into that space, just to show that there's more people than just men doing it, especially in the adventure side of it, and the more like, for the lack of better word, off the beaten path spaces, because there's a lot of YouTubers, let's say women YouTubers, who do like all look at this town and blah 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 blah, but I'd like to obviously stick with my style of places that are a bit different and maybe some people haven't seen, and then bring that into the space of maybe travel TV someday. We'll see. So yeah, okay, question. Right now I'm just doing odd jobs, so I'm not doing a full-time job just because I needed that after being a little mentally drained from everything. I'm just doing small under the table paid jobs anywhere I can find them, just whoever needs things like yard work, housework, cleaning, whatever, just to keep myself going, kind of thing, as well as I have some funds saved up from Australia, but I'm looking to keep those for this upcoming project. So so if you have any longer questions and whatnot, feel free to write them in the comments once this ends, in the comment area on the video itself. I don't curl my hair. This is natural. It's always been really, really curly. I'm really bummed that these photos didn't work, because they're of the younger me when I had really, really long hair that was really curly. I actually don't do anything with my hair because I'm quite lazy with it, so washing it is the most I do, and then it does what it does. I do love car design. I actually was offered an internship in Canada to do some car design types of stuff, but I feel like I found something that I really love, which is this in traveling, as well as the car industry is quite sexist, and on my thesis, I was partnered with a girl from China, a boy from China, and a boy from Romania. And the girls did the interior and the boys did the exterior because that's what we were interested in, not just because like that was the split kind of thing. It was us two were really interested in the interior of designing the car. And what we found was that a lot of people were hiring women because they need that to be able to write down on a piece of paper and say like, yes, we've hired women in our company, but then they put them in color and trim or put them in things that they think are the right spot for women. And that's not what either of us wanted to do. She's actually still pursuing work, and she's amazing. She is such a great designer. I would say she was the best in our whole class. And she's still attempting to get work and whatnot. Didn't help with the pandemic. But yeah, it's an industry that you have to have the passion and continue the passion for a long time. Otherwise, you're just not going to make it. And so even though I was offered the internship, I turned it down because I have the passion for this now. And I know that if I don't have a really, really strong passion there, that it would end poorly for myself and for the company. So maybe one day, but at the moment it's not right. This is funny because I love chatting to people, but I don't necessarily like chatting to people on the plane. And when I get on a plane, I kind of get into like the zone of travel where I'm either editing. I hate wasting time, which isn't necessarily a good thing. So when I'm traveling, like in the airport and everything, I'm editing. I'm constantly doing something, especially because that is time that I'm not working, and I can actually dedicate a lot of stuff towards this channel, towards everything I want to be doing, and to being able to share with you guys. And so I use the time either to be sleeping, catching up on sleep, or on editing and or thinking of ideas or these things, so I don't actually chat to the person next to me, which I think is a bit surprising coming from myself to myself. But yeah. Alrighty. If there's no more questions, I might say see you later to you guys so you can go on. And I'll probably go get something to eat. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. I've really, really enjoyed this. It was quite nerve-wracking at the beginning, and my favorite beer, Pilsner. I'm not necessarily a connoisseur, again, despite all my videos having a lot of beer and whatnot in it, but I'm not a connoisseur of beer, so Pilsners. I like Guinness, but only one. Only one, I can't even think of the words anymore. Wow. I've been out of Australia for too long. All right. Thank you guys so much. These comments are lovely. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you guys later.